The hidden fertilization rules every aquarium expert follows. Fertilization can be confusing. When to dose, what to dose, how much should you even dose? Today, I'll show you the rules that lead to success, so you can grow healthy plants every single time. Plants can only absorb nutrients when they are actively growing, and that active growth mostly happens when the lights are on. Light provides the energy plants use to photosynthesize. During that process, they pull nutrients from the water and turn them into new tissue. When the lights are off, that process slows down dramatically. Plants are not actively building new growth, which means nutrient uptake also slows down. This is why it's best to dose fertilizers while your lights are on. That way, nutrients enter the water exactly when plants are ready to use them. A mistake that happens very often is forgetting to dose during the day, then trying to fix it later at night when the lights are already off. You might think it's a responsible thing to do because you don't want to skip a fertilizing day, but in reality, that can create problems. Those nutrients will simply stay in the water column all night, waiting until the lights turn on again for plants to begin absorbing them. During that time, your fish are exposed to higher concentrations of unused nutrients. It doesn't usually cause an immediate disaster, but it's unnecessary exposure that can be easily avoided. If you forget to dose during the light period, the better option is simply skipping that day. Your plants will be perfectly fine missing one dose. Nutrients don't always work together in planted tanks. In many cases, they can compete with each other. This phenomenon is called nutrient antagonism and is something experienced aquarists pay close attention to. Plants don't absorb nutrients in isolation. Different elements enter the plant through similar pathways, and when one nutrient becomes too abundant, it can interfere with the uptake of another. In other words, nutrients can block each other. A classic example is potassium and magnesium. When potassium levels get too high, plants might struggle to absorb magnesium properly, even if magnesium is present in the water. Another example involves ammonium and calcium. Excess ammonium can interfere with calcium uptake. Calcium is critical for cell structure and new tissue development. When plants can't access enough of it, new growth can start looking twisted or damaged. Iron can create a similar issue. If iron is overdosed, it can interfere with manganese uptake, and manganese is important for several photosynthetic processes inside the plant. Proper fertilization is all about keeping nutrients balanced. Many of us see a deficiency symptom and immediately are more fertilizer, but sometimes the missing nutrient isn't actually missing. It's simply being blocked by something else that's overdosed. That's why you should always avoid extreme dosing. More nutrients is not always better. Healthy plant growth comes from balance and stability. A balanced nutrient profile allows plants to absorb everything they need without forcing different nutrients to compete with each other. If you are enjoying the video, remember to like and subscribe for weekly videos to help you in your aquarium journey. The way we think about nutrition can heavily influence how we fertilize. Plants don't use nutrients the moment you add them to the aquarium. Instead, they store many of those nutrients inside their tissue. Leaves, stems, and roots can hold internal reserves, and plants slowly draw from those reserves as they grow. So something interesting happens in planted aquariums. Plants can keep growing for weeks, even if fertilization suddenly stops. At first, everything looks normal. Growth continues. Leaves still look healthy. But during that time, the plant is slowly consuming what it already stored. Once those internal reserves run out, decline can happen very quickly. For that same reason, deficiencies often appear suddenly, even though the real problem started much earlier. A yellow leaf today often means the plant began running out of nutrients days or even weeks ago. By the time we notice the symptom, the plant has already been struggling for a while. My advice to you is to follow a different rule. Fertilize for tomorrow, not for today. Instead of waiting for plants to show problems, keep nutrients available before plants run out. Plants are constantly consuming nutrients while they grow. Nitrogen for tissue development, potassium for cellular function, phosphorus for energy transfer. When fertilization only happens after visible problems appear, plants are forced into a recovery cycle. First, they weaken, then they rebuild, and we can never enjoy a truly healthy aquarium. So follow a constant and specific fertilization routine. You don't need to add a bunch, just be consistent. Many people think fertilization only comes from bottles, but in a planted aquarium, nutrients can come from two different places: the water column and the substrate. Substrates are not just there to hold plants in place. Many of them actually store and release nutrients over time. This is especially important for root-feeding plants, because a large part of their nutrition comes directly from the substrate. When people only focus on liquid fertilizers, they are ignoring half of the system. Think of fertilization as two systems working together. The water column feeds the leaves, the substrate feeds the roots. If you're serious about plant growth, choosing the right substrate matters a lot. Gravel or sand don't provide nutrients by themselves, and that makes plant nutrition harder to balance. They can still work, but they are usually better suited for tanks that focus on epiphyte plants. Things like anubias, bucephalandra, and moss. When you use a nutrient-rich substrate, plants have a steady supply of nutrients directly at their roots. And this has another interesting benefit. It makes achieving strong red coloration much easier, because you don't need to dose as many nutrients in the water column. Lower nitrogen levels in the water help slow plant growth slightly, and slower growth means plants stay exposed to strong light for longer. That exposure is what pushes many species to develop deeper red pigments. If your goal is strong red coloration, a nutrient-rich substrate makes a big difference. Some plants can still turn red even with higher nitrogen levels. Crotala narrowleaf and Lubija ovalis are good examples. If you want to try those in your own tanks, you can check them out at my online store. I'll leave a link below. Fertilization is all about plant mass. A 20-gallon tank packed with plants can consume far more nutrients than a 75-gallon tank with only a few plants. What determines nutrient demand is how much plant tissue is actively growing. Every stem, every leaf, every new shoot is constantly pulling nutrients from the water. The more plants you have, the faster those nutrients disappear. This is one of the hidden rules of fertilization that many people overlook. More plants means more nutrient demand. A heavily planted tank can consume huge amounts of nutrients every day. Nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, trace elements. Everything gets used quickly when plant mass is high. On the other hand, a lightly planted aquarium might barely consume any nutrients at all. If you dose the same fertilizer amount in both tanks, one might thrive and the other might end up with excess nutrients building up in the water. Plant mass is constantly changing too. As plants mature and grow thicker, nutrient consumption increases. A dosing routine that worked perfectly a month ago might suddenly become too weak once the tank fills in. The opposite is also true. After a large trim, plant mass drops dramatically and nutrient demand drops with it. If you keep dosing the same amount immediately after trimming, you might temporarily have more nutrients in the water than plants can use. This is why fertilization should always adapt to plant mass. As your plants grow, increase nutrients. After heavy trimming, reduce them slightly. When you follow these hidden rules, plants stay healthier, colors improve, and problems become much easier to avoid. If you have any fertilization tricks that work for you, share them in the comments so others can learn from them too.